Hello, awesome humans, and welcome back to Charity Island Discs. We're back. We've been on a hiatus. I thought it was only a couple of months, but looking at the diary, it's actually been a year. So thank you for sticking with us, and thanks for coming back. I want to start off just by saying a very big thank you to all of the people at Fundraising Everywhere and Everywhere Plus. Like I present this, but they really power it. They're the driving force behind it, and without them, it wouldn't have happened. So if you don't follow them, if you don't engage with them, I highly suggest that you do. They're excellent people. But if this is your first time tuning in, basically the idea behind this is that it's good to connect, and it's good to connect to the great and the good of the sector, and kind of get behind the LinkedIn profiles a bit of the great and the good. And what better way to do this than through music? So we set up Charity Island Discs, and our guest today is like one of my favorite people in the sector, one of the greatest humans I know. And she sent across a bio, which I'm just going to read out verbatim because it's so cool. So this is Jen Love, and Jen Love is a storyteller, and not in a poetic sense, in an awkward and authentic cry ball in the throat, let's get to the heart and the emotion sense, where vulnerability, values, passion and purpose come first and forever. Let's talk about metrics and meaning, facts and feelings. Jen, filled with an attitude of gratitude, is a partner at Agents for Good. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Jen Love. How you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And just delighted to be with you. I've loved listening to the previous episodes. I'm so happy for the new season. Yeah, I'm jazzed. And I think it's an awesome way to, as you say, connect with people that are slightly behind the headlines of what we see in each other's social media feeds and on LinkedIn. I think it's a great format, and nervous and excited would describe my feelings.
That's the way to be. Well, I'm massively stoked that you agreed to do this. How did you find choosing just 8 discs?
Really hard. I mean, I did find it difficult, mostly because, as I was saying to you by text, I think it is, you want to balance kind of, how can I tell stories about stories, which is what I do, and make sure that it's also a great playlist for people to listen to and connect with. And I also made quite an effort to make sure that there was some Canadian content. Proud to be first Canadian on the show, represent. So all of those things were weighing on my mind and my consideration. And I mean, I know, like you, I listen to music constantly. Music is always playing in the background of our lives, in my home, in my car, in my earpods everywhere I go. So picking 8 songs was tough, but also a fun challenge.
Well, I've got to say, you're the only person who's been on here who hasn't switched their choices at least 50 times. Like, what you sent over is what you stuck to. So
honestly, I thought about it. I thought about it 3 or 4 different times, and I was like, you know what, Jen, go with your original instincts, because often that's kind of one of the ways that I guide my decision making is, if I made this decision in my gut and I felt right about it at the time, that was an instinct for a reason. So
brilliant.
I'll probably regret it and follow up with you later. Like, I should have done this. But that's between us.
Cool. Well, let's get stuck in. There's plenty to chat about. I'm really excited about some of these tunes. So your first disc, what have you chosen and why?
So for the first disc I chose was Bleeding Heart Show by the New Pornographers. And spoiler alert, one of the things that I've done in my picks was I wanted to choose some Canadian musicians and artists who both have these larger groups in which they play in. And so they kind of come and go out of each other's solo acts, and then they come together as kind of, as much as you can have super bands in Canada, like large versions of artists who come together and complement each other in different ways. And so this is one of the ways that I've skirted the issue of which bands to pick, was that I picked bands that also all have amazing artists. Like New Pornographers, Nico Case is just a goddess and is one of the best artists of our time, I think. One of my other picks was Destroyer, and Dan from Destroyer is part of New Pornographers. So I kind of got away with some of my picks by picking bands that have very deep catalogs as solo artists and as groups. So that's why I picked this one. And this one, to me, I love this song because it's about collaboration. It's also about the spectacle of our relationships. And in this one, it's about the spectacle of a relationship ending, but still turns into a sing-along banger that when you're at the show, which is quite a tough creative brief. And they nail it. So that's why I picked this song.
They really do. So let's kick off with an absolute banger. This is the New Pornographers.
I leapt across 3 or 4 beds into your arms, where I had hidden myself somewhere in your charm. Our golden handshake has been smashed into this shape. It's taken magic to a primitive new place. Watch them run, although it's the minimum. Heroic, we hunched together in one chair out on the deck, in snow that froze and fell down on the modern set. It looked as if I picked your name out of a hat. Next thing you know, you are asleep in someone's lap. Watch them run, although it's the minimum. Heroic, we quit the room, quit so our thoughts can rest, rest them on loving you. That's when we climb the hole, or whatever it is we fell into. Lousy with your kept time, with what the majestic cannot find. In the business of your lives, the perception it is wrong. Mile after mile, the phantom teens drinking wine from your heels.
Well, there you go. You know how to get the party started, don't you? Cracking. And a brand new one on me. Which you'll be hearing a lot of over the
Like I said, deep catalog.
Yeah. Excellent. You seen them live?
I have not. A regret of mine is I have not seen them live. I've seen Nico, but I have not seen the whole group live. On the list.
No, they're really uplifting. And it's one of those ones that I've only listened to it a couple of times now, but you can really belt it out. You know, that's why I'm driving along, screaming.
Especially the hey la, hey la's, like you know where that's going. Yeah.
Can't go wrong with a hey la, hey la. Brilliant. So that's one under the belt, an absolute banger. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about childhood and family.
So I grew up in nature. I grew up in the country. My parents have a 100-acre property, and I grew up very much nestled in the natural world. All of our holidays and vacations, and even just our outings, often involved birding or some other form of nature expression. My parents were both teachers. My dad pivoted quite quickly from teaching into fundraising, which was one of those awkward transitions, but he did it. And my mom was a teacher librarian, and also she's also an author and a scientifically accurate botanical watercolor painter. So both of my parents are very creative, artistic people, and music was always a part of our lives at home. So I grew up in nature in King City, Ontario. It was a pretty magical place to grow up.
Sounds absolutely lovely. Yeah. We both share a passion of bird watching. I'm quite new to it myself, but it's taken over my life.
But isn't that the thing about birding, is that you can be very new to it and still like the magic and the wonder and the discovery. And then you can also be a long-term, like my parents have been birding. My dad knows, the red-winged blackbird should be here. It's March 8th, and they've been coming here every day for 60 years to this particular place. So I love birding and bird watching because it's shallow and deep, depending on where you are with it. And I love it.
Absolutely. I put a thing on Twitter the other day just saying that putting a bird feeder outside the window where I work has had the single biggest impact on my well-being. It's great.
Right. And so what do you see your feeder? Your feeder?
I'm getting really excited by all the boring birds. I really like sparrows. They're amazing.
I know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tough as old boots. Always fighting. I love it.
My dad is a sparrow whisperer, and he can identify sparrows in flight. Like, and I can't. They all just look like sparrows to me, but he knows all the just different kinds of sparrows. Yeah. Agreed.
Well, let's move on from birding. What's your second disc? What have you chosen and why?
Okay, so excellent segue, unintended segue, which is what I love. So my second pick is a song by the Rolling Stones. It's Heartbreaker by the Rolling Stones. And so my dad, the godfather of good, longtime fundraiser, he is a Stones fanatic. And so I've been listening to the Stones since I was breathing. And Heartbreaker is a song that I feel, I love it on a bunch of different levels. One, because I just love the sort of rock and roll vibe of the Stones. I also felt it was a great counterpoint to the Hey La Hey La with the do-do-do-do. So yeah, that's why I picked Heartbreaker by the Rolling Stones.
And an absolute corker. So strap yourselves in, people. This is the Rolling Stones.
Chased a boy right through the park in a case of mistaken identity. They put a bullet through his heart. Heartbreakers with the 44. I wanna tear your world apart. You heartbreaker with your 44. I wanna tear your world apart. On street corner, sticking needles in her arms. She died in the dirt of Hollywood. Mother said, yeah.
Yeah, certified banger. Nice one. I love that tune. I think like it's quintessential Rolling Stones, isn't it? It's got the groove, it's got the horns, but quite an understated guitar solo from Keith. But yeah, it's from Goat's Head Soup, isn't it?
It is. And it's also got the message that, like, even today, we'd be talking about racial inequality, we'd be talking about drug use and drug abuse. I mean, it's like it could have been written now. And I just think the Stones, in so many ways, had their finger on that pulse of, you know, the generation of people who've grown up with their music, you know, activists turned donors, essentially. And I find that really moving. I mean, this was a tough one for me because it's hard not to include Neil Young as a Canadian. I mean, everything. Same with Dire Straits. I'm a big fan of Dire Straits. I'm a big fan of Traveling Wilburys. So it was hard to pick my like throwback song, but the Stones definitely felt right. And Heartbreaker is my favorite of the Stones catalog. What's your favorite in the Stones catalog?
Oh, I was thinking when you sent it over, there are 4 albums that I just cannot live without in terms of the Stones, and it's Goat's Head Soup, Exile on Main Street, Sticky Fingers, Let It Bleed. Monkey Man is one of my favorites in terms of groove. That is an absolute.
So my dad had a record collection, like enviable record collection, the whole time I was a kid, and he had the Sticky Fingers original LP that actually had the zipper on it.
Oh wow!
And I remember that being one of those, like, of course, at the time I didn't have the language for layered creative interface, but I was like, wow, they actually manufactured this record with a zipper on the cover. Yeah.
Absolute belter. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Really enjoyed it. So moving on from your idyllic childhood, let's talk about the teenage years and how hard or not they hit you.
Well, teenage years are for me because I'm raising 2 now, right? Like my kids are turning 15 and turning 17 next month. And my teenage years, you know, back in my day, such an old lady, and Simon is, I'm sure, rolling his eyes at this very minute. You know, I grew up with my sister and my brother. My sister works in social justice and is a landlord-tenant adjudicator. And my brother is a movie executive now. And so the 3 of us were really our own crew growing up in the country. And then we had this sort of cousins and extended family who became our kind of first friends that really grew with us in our teenage years. So, life as a teenager for me was different than life is as teenagers now. We had to be driven everywhere because we lived in the middle of nowhere, and we had to rely on our parents or semi-reliable people to get us from here and there and everywhere. And my kids now have this entirely other opened up world where they're in touch with people from all over the planet whenever they want to. And I made the decision to move into a city because I didn't want to raise my kids in the country. But my kids both really value going back to the country and kind of like, I can't believe you don't want to live here. And I'm like, well, wait till you're 17 and see how you feel about it then. So yeah, that was my kind of teenage years. I went to university young. I went to university a year younger than most of the kids in my class. But I felt like I was ready. Well, it's a long love family story, but I skipped kindergarten.
Okay.
Because I knew how to read, which they wouldn't do anymore. And in fact, they stopped doing quite soon after it happened for me. So I went to university when I was 18. And most of the other kids that I was going to university with were already 19 here in Ontario. So yeah, anyway, my teenage years I feel like they were wonderful and idyllic and magical in the country, and also felt like I needed to become a city mouse in order to live the two sides of my personality best.
Cool. No, great to hear. And I will be tapping you up for teenager advice soon. My son's 11, so we're just on the cusp of the preteens, and I'm not liking what I'm seeing. So any advice?
The only advice that I have that's universal is talk about it all. Talk about it all with your spouse. Talk about it all with your kid. Talk about it all with the people around you. And then there's permutations and variations on that. But yeah, talk about it all.
Okay, great advice. So let's move on to disc number 3. Oh. What have you chosen and why?
So this was, okay, I'm not going to say it's my favorite pick, but it probably is my favorite pick. Although I haven't completely decided how I'm going to answer that question near the end. Jeopardy. So, but the third pick for me is called My Favorite Book by The Stars. And Stars is an amazing band, amazing Canadian band, another deep catalog. And in fact, I just tweeted that they've just announced their first new music in 5 years, including a new song called Snowy Owl.
Come on,
right? It's like we manifested this. And really, this to me it's a love song about storytelling, which I just find a beautiful mystery wrapped in a riddle. I love the whole architecture of the song. I love the vocals. And yeah, I'm a big reader. So anything called My Favorite Book, I would listen to sight unseen. And then once I heard it, I just fell in love with it.
Excellent. So who doesn't want to listen to an ode to storytelling? So settle back, get yourself a cup of tea and listen to Stars.
I was always late, you never afraid that we could be falling. All our friends would say that maybe we should wait, but they can't see what's coming. And to this day, when everything breaks, you are the anchor that holds me. And that is why we'll always make it. How I know your face, all the ways you move. You come in, I can read you. You're my favorite book. All the things you say, the way you shift your eyes, I never knew there was someone to make me come alive. When the days are long and the thunder with the storm can always get me crying, well, you can make my bed, I'll fall into it, shattered but not lonely. 'Cause I never knew a home until I found your hands. And when I'm weathered, you come to me, you're my best why we'll always make it. How I know your face, all the ways you move. You come in, I can read you. You're my favorite bird. All the things you say, the way you shift your eyes, I never knew there was someone to make me come alive.
That's another completely new one on me, but out of all the new ones that you sent across, this is the one that I played the most. I'm trying to think why, and I think it's just that, yeah, it's the lyrics, but it's also that crystal clear voice.
I know.
Beautiful.
Amy
Absolutely.
Milan's voice is just, yeah, it's such a beautiful, her tone is perfect. And I love this, the thing about this song I like is I can hear the emotion.
Mhm.
I mean, same with New Pornographers and a couple of other choices I have, but there's a real emotional intensity to the way that Amy sings and performs. And I think that it's hard to balance great storytelling with nostalgia. And this song is kind of about both.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I know that nostalgia, I mean, a lot of the work we do in fundraising right now is Agents of Good do a lot of work in legacy fundraising, and nostalgia is a huge motivator and factor for people. So that was part of the reason why I chose this one.
Brilliant. Absolutely bang on choice. Thank you for that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who will be listening to that for the first time who'll be saying thank you as well.
Mm.
So we've tumbled through your story, your childhood, growing up in the wilderness, going to university early. Let's talk about coming out of university and first jobs.
So when I was in university, I had the first year, when I was my first year of university, excuse me, I had a job as a server, as a waitress, and I was terrible, absolutely terrible.
Why?
I'm so clumsy and I forget orders. And I was actually a waitress the year of Woodstock, not the original one, like
69.
the revival.
Okay.
And I had this table of people who'd just come back from Woodstock, and it was a bunch of, we'd call them bros now, but we didn't have that language then. And so I walked up to the table saying, "Hey, what can I get for you?" And they said, "Hey, baby," bad start, "what's the difference between me and a canoe?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he says, "Canoes don't tip."
Oh.
And so I was like, oh, so now I'm on the, like, I need to be the best server possible to get the right tip from you. Anyways, so I was a terrible server. And then I quickly discovered that the Canadian government actually offers bursary programs for young university students to work at charities. So I actually started to work as a summer student for a variety of charities from my second year of university on. And I loved that because I knew that there was a possibility to work in the charitable sector because, of course, my dad was a fundraiser. So my first couple of jobs were as a university student doing all the support stuff, all the donor care stuff, all the database management, all the receipting, all the kind of administrative work that charities need to function. And then when I left university, I knew I wanted to work in fundraising. So I got a job as a consultant. My first job was as a consultant. And then I moved cities to be with my then handsome young boyfriend, now handsome middle-aged husband. And I worked for a national health charity for 3 years. And so I really felt like my early career involved both consultancy and kind of working on a variety of different projects, and then also working as a completely devoted embedded fundraiser for 3 years, which was great. And then I left that to go on and have kids, and then moved into my freelance collaboration. This is when I met John, and then started to move into Agents of Good mode. But I do feel like a background in both administration, support staff, then consulting, then embedded fundraiser was a great journey for me. And I know you've done both too, right? So being able to sit on both sides of...
Yeah, does help, doesn't it? It does help to be able to look across the table at someone and say, I've been outside of the table too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know what's going on. I know how you're dealing with your board. I know what's happening. I understand. Yeah, I felt like that was a good balance for me.
No, great. Excellent stuff. So you're proper dyed-in-the-wall fundraiser from the word go, apart from medallions with waitressing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I mean, really, and even when I was in high school, I was involved in all the high school fundraisers, university organizing. So yeah, I'm one of these people that fundraising has been in my gene pool.
Fantastic. Well, let's move on. What are we on? Disc number 4.
Okay.
We chose them why.
So this one, I wanted to choose, I do listen to a lot of hip hop and rap and R&B, and I wanted to choose a Canadian artist. And Simon's probably rolling his eyes again. I'm a big fan of Drake. I listen to a lot of Drake. And then it was through Drake that I got introduced to The Weeknd. And so I've chosen one of The Weeknd's earlier songs. It's called House of Balloons. And I thought I did want to represent the kind of Toronto Black artist community, which I think is really important and is a conversation that we're having. And I also felt like it's just a banger. It's one of those songs that, and I feel that way about The Weeknd. Like I could put on most Weeknd songs and love it. I even have a playlist called Weekend, which we listen to on weekends. So this one I felt was a good Weeknd song because it's earlier in the catalog, but is also just awesome and has that kind of like, I also really appreciate artists when they do the kind of 2-part song, like you feel like it's ending and then it's a totally different song. And this one has that vibe, which I love.
It really does. Absolute top choice. So if any of you haven't experienced The Weeknd thus far, you're in for a treat.
lady who be down for that. Whatever, together, bring your own stash of the greatest. Trade it, roll the dub, burn the dub, cough it, taste it. Then watch us chase it. With a handful of pills, no chasers. Jaw clenching on some supersized papers. She bad in a headband. Escaping, the van is a wonderland. And it's 6:30. Read skies, cause time don't exist. And when the stars shine back to the crib, superstar lines back at the crib. We could test out the tables. Got some brand new tables. All glass and it's 4 feet wide. But it's a must to get us 10 feet high. She give me sex in a handbag. I get her wetter than a wet nap. And no closed doors. So I listen to her moans echo. I heard he do drugs now. You heard wrong, I've been on it for a minute. We just never act a fool. That's just how we fucking live it. And when we act a fool, it's probably cause we mixed it. Yeah, I'm always on that okie dokie. Them white boys know the deal, ain't no fucking phony. Big O know the deal, he the one who showed me. Watch me ride this fucking beat like he fucking told me. Is that your girl, what's a fucking story? She kinda bad, but she riding like a fucking pony. Lock her down, or her man be her fucking story. Yeah, I'm talking about you, man, get to know me. Ain't no offense, though, I promise you. If you a real man, dude, you gon' side the truth. But I'm a nice dude, with some nice dreams. And we can turn this to a nightmare, Elm Street. La 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 la. I'm so gone. Bring out the glass tables. With the 707 now. La 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 la. I'm so gone. Bring out the glass tables. The 707 now. La 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 la. I'm so gone. Bring out the glass tables. With the 707 now. La 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 la. So gone. Bring out the glass tables. With the 707 now. 707 now. 707 now.
Excellent choice, Jen Love.
Thank you.
The production on that is pretty impeccable, isn't it?
Well, this is another one that was tough too, right? Because I mean, I've seen Kanye West in concert 2 or 3 or 4 times, maybe. I've seen Jay-Z. I really want to see Run the Jewels. I haven't been to see Run the Jewels yet, but I do. I wanted to have a kind of a hip hop vibe, and yeah, The Weeknd just rose to the top for me.
I think just riffing on that tune, like it's really melodic, but it's also a bit wonky. There's something
Absolutely.
like Pharrell does. It's a bit like, oh, there's something in there, isn't there? Yeah.
Weeknd has a whole minor chord.
Yeah.
In fact, Rakesh tweeted not that long ago, as I was picking these songs, our friend Rakesh Lakhani tweeted saying, does The Weeknd even do anything in a major chord, or is it all in a minor chord? And it's a fair question.
Yeah. Brilliant. Excellent stuff. So normally it's this segment where we talk about the transition from jobs to how you first got into the charity sector, but that's quite unique for you. So do you want to talk about some of those first jobs that you had?
Well, so one of the things that I liked about the way that you framed this was you talked about, and you asked me about stumbling into the charitable sector. And I think of myself as stumbling along and alongside. I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting part of my story that my dad was a fundraiser, so I always knew there was a career in the charitable sector. But I also know that I never would have gotten from just thinking and feeling like I want to work in the charitable sector to the career I have today if it wasn't for a whole bunch of other people that helped me stumble along. So I think some of us stumble in to the charitable sector and some of us stumble along in the charitable sector, and I'm a stumble alonger. And I feel like I'm learning every single day from the people that I work with and my sort of close team at the agents, and then our clients and our colleagues, and also just from the wider fundraising world. And I think that there's something to be said for the people who kind of realize that, oh, here I am, I'm in the charitable sector, now I need to realize and figure out how to raise money. That's different. And at the same time, also the same as people who are like, I'm here and I want to stay here, and now I need to find my fit and find my group and find my people. And so I think stumbling along is as important as stumbling into, is my answer to that one.
I think that's really beautiful. And and one of the things I really admire about you is, I know this isn't a backpassing competition, is that, you know, you've been in the sector for a long time, but you are still learning. You're really humble. You know, I've seen you present. It's not about you on a platform dictating what people should do. It's really collaborative. It's all about co-creation. And I think that's the future of the sector. So yeah, keep on.
Thanks, bud. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I do think that you can be a forever learner when you're 80, and you can be somebody who is closed to learning when you're 25. And the more important thing for me as a sector that wants to evolve is to have people who are prepared to work together and stumble along together, as opposed to being dogmatic and rigid about what they think and what they know and when they knew it. Because to me, that's a race to the bottom.
Mate, that's the world I want to live in.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's move on. What are we on? Disc 5.
Oh my goodness, I know.
What have you
It's happening so
chosen?
fast.
Keep on your toes.
So for my disc 5, I chose Waiting on You by Future Islands. And I actually vividly remember when I first saw this performance. So the video that I chose for this one was very deliberately their live performance on Letterman. Aging myself again, but I'm an old lady. What can I do?
I'm with you.
And when I remember someone shared it with me, my brother actually was one that shared it with me, and I was just completely transfixed, because all I could think of was, this guy is just leaving it all on this floor. Like there is no end to this man's passion and delight and thrill at being able to perform this song. And the band is just so steady and consistent. And yeah, he's just leaving it on the floor, and I just love it.
Yeah, no, this is, I need to thank you for this track. This is another completely new one on me, but one that's going to be on my Spotify quite a lot. So here are Future Sounds.
the original was what left of the tape. Has it paid the summer we won? But the original crave was gone. The crave was gone. The crave was gone.
Wow, what a voice! It goes to
everything.
strange places with that
The
voice.
voice, the dance moves.
Yeah.
And this is sort of like we were talking about before, Wayne. This is one of those ones that this segment I thought about. I have a couple of artists that I also like in the same kind of vibe as Future Islands. I also really like Tame Impala. In fact, I'm seeing them in 2 weeks, hopefully, if our COVID will allow us. War on Drugs is another album or another band, right? Ocean Between the Waves is another one of my all-time favorite songs. But this one to me really spoke to the passion and dedication of the artist and also the kind of impatience. Like even all of his performances are very impatient. And I really respect that from an artistic perspective, that he can maintain this high, impatient energy with so much love and devotion and attention. I just really admire that.
There's real integrity there as well.
Yes, absolutely. It's
I
authentic.
don't know anything about it, but like you can feel it, can't you?
You can 100% feel it. And you can't fake that shit. You can't fake it.
You cannot fake that shit. Yeah,
You cannot fake that shit.
Same for music, same for the charity sector. So it's normally this segment that we talk about after you've stumbled into the charity sector, the sort of the jobs that you've had up until the one that you're doing now, which we'll talk about in the next segment. So do you want to talk about your journey or things that have happened or particular bits of your career that have resonated? Over to you, really. This is like jazz. We're weaving in and out of traditional segment.
But this is how stories work, right? They're not linear. They're emotional.
Yeah.
And so I always knew from the very first job I had, even in when I was answering the phones at the United Way of York Region in 1994, that I knew that I liked to share and tell stories. And I knew that writing in English was always part of my university career, and I'm a voracious reader. My family's very into reading and stories. So I always knew that storytelling was going to be where I was going to go. I didn't realize until a couple of years after I was in the charitable sector just how important it is to have good fundraising copywriters. Because you can be a good writer and you can be a good storyteller and it won't translate into good fundraising content. Yeah. So I really was very intentional as my career went on to sort of figure out, okay, how do I hone this craft in a way that's not a start with this, then use this, like not a formulaic approach, but more of what's an organic way to tell great stories in the charitable sector. And then once I realized that I could transfer those skills and then learn forever, I fell in love and I never looked back. I mean, what I do is tell stories. What matters to me most when I sit down at my desk every morning is who am I talking to today and about what, and how is that going to move someone else? And I realized that it's an extremely privileged perspective because I work with charities that do a lot of the kind of, process or procedural work that needs to get done to get appeals out, to get campaigns into the world, to launch new websites. And I also have a business partner who's very capable and competent and confident at being a really good business owner. I am not. Yeah. I'm a reluctant business owner. I don't give a shit about. And so John is just he's a yin to my yang and I'm a yang to his yin, that I admire and appreciate all the stuff that he wants to do to move our business forward, look at it thoughtfully. I just want to sit down at my desk and tell stories. And so I feel like I'm continuing to design my life in such a way that I can be supportive and encouraging and ask the right questions of the people around me who are making that part of my work and part of our business better, but also staying out of it because it's not what I want to do and I'm not as good at it. So yeah, and you're the same, right? The kind of
absolutely. I'm awful. I can manage multi-million-pound budgets down to the last penny, but I still cross my fingers when I go to the cash point 2 days before payday. Do you know what I mean? Money just disappears through my fingers. But I think what resonates with me about you and why I always chime you as one of the best storytellers I know is that you start with heart and you start with story. You don't start with process. And I think what I'm noticing quite a lot in the sector is that process has taken over being human, I think, and like having a font that's this size and paragraphs that are this long and having a PS here and all of that is all really, really important. But at the heart of it is the story, and you need to recalibrate just to make sure that those stories shine. So yes, that is what we're good at. So moving on, we are at disc 6 now. What have you chosen?
So this is the one, again, I snuck in a performance that's a double. So Arcade Fire, another amazing Canadian band. The recording that I've chosen is from the Takeaway shows from La Blogothèque, which is an amazing, very deep well. And so this performance is 2 songs. It's them riding in an elevator up to a rooftop show. And what I love about this band, and when you see them live, and I have seen Arcade Fire live a couple of times, they literally throw instruments to each other. They're all multi-instrumentalists. It's just calamity to see them live. And seeing this show with them going up in the elevator and the guy ripping the paper in half to make the percussion noises just filled my heart. And then the song they play at the top, which is Wake Up, is kind of their anthem. Like anytime you go to an Arcade Fire show, you'd be guaranteed to hear the song and everybody is singing along. So this is my Arcade Fire pick, Neon Bible and Wake Up.
Brilliant. Not only, if you don't know Arcade Fire, they should be a staple part of your life, but also an incredible way of sneaking 2 tracks into one. So chill back and let's enjoy Arcade Fire.
Woo!
Let's do this.
Come on. All right.
I'm taking
Destroy this song in the elevator.
Thanks.
Destroy the elevator. Let's destroy the elevator. Let's destroy our minds and.
Il y aura un tas de machins qui partent, qui vont dans la salle. Je sais pourquoi je dis qu'il ne faut pas négocier le terrain. Parce que, je suis pas sûr que c'est une bonne chose. Si jamais le band part et que le public ne suit pas, il ne sert à rien, il est noyé dans la foule, il ne sert plus à rien. 2 derrière, et par contre, ce qu'il faut, c'est qu'il y ait un mec à l'arrivée, qu'il y ait la porte qui soit ouverte et qu'une fois qu'ils rentrent, on referme derrière eux.
On ferme derrière. Non, on ferme là, on fait suivre dans l'ascenseur. Juste 2 minutes. 2 minutes, comment? Ok. Come. All come. Clyde, je pense que ça va être possible de bouger là?
I'll go down.
Can you get out, please? We need the space set. Ouais. No, can you get out of the elevator?
Vous sorti.
Ok, super. Come, let's go inside. D'accord, merci. On ferme derrière. Essaye de venir si on... Essaye de venir avec moi là. Okay, and do you want to move up and down?
Scared.
Oh, sorry, do you want to move up and down?
I
No.
can't.
No, the elevator isn't
Close the
going
door.
anywhere. It's gonna close.
Okay. Are you in? Still want to step in?
Maybe.
But it's the same.
Non, maybe take. Toi, tu vas là, viens là, toi. Switch the place, and I'm gonna stay behind you, like that. Cool. Okay?
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hope and a vial of pain. In the light, they both look the same. Poured them out on into the world. On every boy and every girl. Listen to me on fire. Me on fire. Not much chance to survive. Me on fire. That's right. Get the poison of your age. Don't make your fingers when you turn the page. What I know is what you know is right. In the city, it's the only light. It's the need. Not much chance to survive. It's right. Oh, God will let you down. Oh, you lost and now in the light of a broken cloud. Oh, God, I feel so bad. The poison of your age. Don't lick your fingers when you turn the page. It was wrong, but you said it was right. In the future, I'll read at night. And the neon light. Not much chance to survive. Neon light. It's true.
Open the door. Good. Great. What a mess you did, Detroit. Beautiful.
Here you go, Tim.
The thing you can make is kind of circle. You think you can begin like the first minute here and the door?
Yeah.
Il faudrait quelqu'un d'autre porte aussi. Quelqu'un d'autre porte le porte. Il faut quelqu'un qui nous passe cette porte qui tire. C'est bon. Ok, c'est carré. Écoute.
We're going outside. We're playing outside. Let's go.
You begin outside?
We're going outside, yeah.
Bonsoir. All right. You okay? You good?
Ready, Tim?
Ready.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Excellent. I hope we get clearance on that version. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, fair enough. And I know that the takeaway shows, sometimes they're authorized, sometimes they're not. And so it can be a little risky, but.
Absolutely. Yeah. Arcade Fire should be, well, they are hugely well regarded, but it's amazing how many people haven't heard of them. So yeah, if you take one thing away from this, people go and get into Arcade.
Well, I think the thing about Arcade Fire too, just to build on that a little bit, Wayne, is that they, like, sometimes you're the one ripping the paper in the elevator or knocking on a piece of percussion, and then other times you're the one that's playing the guitar solo in the next song. Like, they really do have the whole band is based on, we're all doing what we can, and if someone needs someone to knock on this wall for the next 10 tracks, they'll do it. And I just really admire that kind of spirit.
No ego. Isn't that the world we live in? Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Okay, so we're hurtling towards the end. A frightening rate, brilliant, really, really enjoying it. And now we've touched on sort of the work that you're doing now, but kind of where are you now? What's happening?
So building on what we were saying before, I absolutely live for coming to my desk and seeing who I'm talking to that day. Are these donors? Or am I talking to beneficiaries? Who am I interviewing? What are we talking about? And how are we going to turn that into a story to move and motivate other donors or other people within this organization? I've come to really, really love long format interviews. I can max out on maybe 3 a day, sometimes only 2, because I don't book things after, especially when I'm talking to donors, or actually donors and beneficiaries. Like, hey, can I chat with you for a little bit about what's going on and how this organization has helped you? As if I'm going to be that dick at the end of the conversation to be like, I have another call to get to. Can I just cut you off, even if you're talking about something emotional and important? So I surprised myself that one of the books I really loved reading last year was Howard Stern's second autobiography. I know, as a lifelong feminist, I surprised myself as well. But one of the things that Stern said in his book that I really respect is that when you have these long format interviews, you really have a chance to just let somebody express themselves. And you have a couple of questions and you've done your research, and their research on the Stern Show is meticulous. So you know what you want to touch on, but you also know when you're going down a rabbit hole, and you just savor and devour that experience. And so I've learned a lot about storytelling and conversations. And one of the big things I learned from Stern is the fake end to a conversation or an interview, where you sort of say, you know, you've given us a lot to work with here, and I know we can put together a great story. I only have a few more questions for you. And then you can actually feel people relax.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I've done, like, I've pleased the charity, or I've pleased the person who I'm talking to. And now I can just let loose and just be myself and just answer how I want. And that's where I get most of the gold in the interviews that I do, is from these moments when people are unguarded, they're emotional, they've ticked everything off that they thought they wanted to say in their interview with this charity, and now they're just expressing themselves. And so I just really am so grateful to be able to have beautiful long format conversations with awesome people who are giving in the charitable sector, who are benefiting from the great work of our charities, who are program people who are doing the work on the ground. Yeah, it's the best part of my work.
That's amazing. And just, you know, even though we work in slightly different fields, that really resonated with me. You know, a lot of the work that I'm doing at the moment is about service design and kind of how charities are put together, and working on a few projects where they're organizations that work with young people, but they're transitioning from being about grown-ups deciding what's best for young people to actually getting young people to help design services. And that involves a lot of workshopping and long format chats and whatever. And I've just realized what my role is in all that. And it's not to dictate or facilitate, it's just to witness magic.
Yeah,
like genuinely.
And listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of harnessing that energy and thrown it out somewhere else. It's amazing. Yeah.
And I think that's, I did an interview. I was thinking about you because I did this interview a couple of weeks ago for Birds Canada, which is one of our clients and obviously close to my heart as a birder. And I was speaking to this woman who works in Nova Scotia, and she's incredibly passionate, loves what she does. And I said, what would be your most important, like, what do you think people should know about birding? And she said, just listen for longer.
Oh.
And I got choked up at the time. I get choked up thinking about it. And I thought, can't we all do more of that? Like, just listen for longer.
I've just written that down. That's beautiful.
Right?
Yeah. Great.
So that's what I'm trying to do. Listen for longer.
What a great sentence to pause on. So let's reflect on that. And where are we now? Disc 7.
Yes,
What have we
disc
chosen
7.
why?
Oh, we're absolutely coming. Oh, I want this to go on forever, Wayne. Anyway, so my disc 7 is by Feist, the artist Feist, and this track is called I Feel It All. And I mean, obviously, needs no introduction when it comes to me and my feelings. But this is another one. Feist is a part of a larger kind of constellation of artists called Broken Social Scene. And so there's a bunch of different artists that come in and out of each other's songs and shows. And this song to me really captures the delight in a solo project within a larger constellation of artists. And the lyrics for this one, for me, are really about meeting people where they are and just being able to show up for conversations and work where we say, let's just see where everyone's at. And I'm prepared to feel it all, and be open to all of it. So that's why I chose this one.
Brilliant. And this, once again, this is another brand new one on me. I'm
funny
not aware of Broken Social Scene, but this is the start of a new chapter for me in terms of my musical listening. So settle back, and I hope you all enjoy Feist.
Put your weight against the door. Kick drum on the basement floor. Stranded in the fog of words. Looking like the winter bird. On my head the water pours. Gulf stream through the open door. Fly away what you wanna make. one who'll break my heart. I'll be the one who'll break my heart. I'll end it though you started it. The truth lies. The truth lies. And I won't lies to rise. Do it. You got to make it lies to rise.
Another banger, Jen Love. Awesome.
And that video with the fireworks and the garbage cans, I just love it.
Yeah, really simple, really powerful. I don't know anything about them at all, and just from some quick Wikipedia in as well. They've been on both Sesame Street and the Muppets, so good enough for me.
Right? We're talking about artists with depth.
Yeah. It's just a beautiful song, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, brilliant. Okay, so where are we now? We're completely up to date, and now we're looking to the future. So, Jen Love, what does the future look like for you? What do you hope for?
So, again, with the architecture of choosing these 8 songs and then choosing the order in which I wanted them, which you asked me about, and I appreciate it. This one I did want to go in this position because I do think that this song is about abundance thinking and abundance mindset. And I think it's also about the curiosity that it requires to say, in every situation, I appreciate that my range of experience is different than your range of experience. And how can we honor all that richness, diversity, and depth in a way that everybody walks away from feeling seen and heard and contributing? And I think the charitable sector is at a very interesting, turning point sounds too cliche and fork in the road, whatever. I do think the charitable sector is balancing a number of those things, including, what evaluating and understanding lived experience of others that's not the same as the rest, as some of us. And also being able to say, how can we lean on traditions just enough and expertise and evidence and data, because that is a huge part of our work, and balance that against a recognition of the lived experience of others. And I think charities have always done that really well, but the charitable sector stinks at that, or it stinks at that more than some of us have the patience for. Do you know what I mean?
I completely understand where you're coming from. And I think, it's not a cliche to say that our sector is at a crossroads. And I think it's kind of understanding what the role of charities is in the larger ecosystem now, and kind of, literally and metaphorically breaking down the walls of big institutions and realizing what you are as a community of people who want to drive change, and that everyone's got a role to play in that. And it's not about hierarchies, and it's not about who's got the best job title. It's about how do we work collectively together for good. Yeah.
And how do we recognize that, and how do we reconcile that charities are filling gaps that our institutions, governments, and leaders should be doing as well, right? Like even in Canada, we're dealing with a situation right now where we have a lot of unrest and a lot of uncertainty among people. And we rely on the charitable sector to fill in gaps that, frankly, some people could say, isn't this the job of our institutions and our leaders? And how is that failing us? So in terms of when it comes to voting, when it comes to having our voices heard, when it comes to contributing to the charities that we love, I think we're all telling our own story. And I want the charitable sector to catch up to the stories that the donors and the beneficiaries and the charity staff people are telling, as much as we're broadcasting out there to try to raise money.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Come on.
And I'm increasingly impatient, but I try to remain abundant and hopeful.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. Yeah, that's the change that needs to happen. Okay, so here we are.
Oh.
It's number 8. You've got to go out with a banger. So
Yes.
What have you got?
Okay, so I think this ticks a number of boxes for both of us. So John has been teasing me all the way leading up to this appearance. Like, oh, how many Jack White songs have you chosen? I am a Jack White fanatic. I've seen Jack White 2 or 3 times. I've seen The Dead Weather. I've seen The Raconteurs. I'm a fan. He's on my short list of future second husbands.
Cool.
To be honest, which my current husband knows about, but he's on the list.
Okay.
And so the song I chose for this one is actually a cover. And I am a big fan of cover experiences and cover art. And so Jack and the White Stripes do a cover of Jolene by Dolly Parton. So this is, again, getting 2 things in at once. And I think that this cover of Jolene, I love. I saw it live when I saw the Great Canadian Northern Lights tour for the White Stripes. My kids were 2 and 8.5 at the time. And I remember going to this concert with my husband and my brother and a few friends. And I drank big beers and I smoked weed and I went home and I nursed my baby. And I was just like, this is what's happening. Because I loved this band and this experience. And this version of Jolene, I especially like. The original's amazing, but I prefer the White Stripes. I shouldn't say prefer. How can you prefer the White Stripes over Dolly?
Shots fired.
I know, but I kind of do. So, anyways, that's why I chose the White Stripes version of Jolene as the end song.
Well, you are all in for a massive treat. This is one of the best cover versions I've ever heard. This is Jolene by the White Stripes.
Jolene, 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 Jolene. Well, I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 Jolene. Please don't take him just because you can. Your beauty is beyond compare, with flaming locks of auburn hair, with apple skin and eyes of emerald green. And your smile's like a breath of spring, your voice sound like summer rain, and I cannot compete with you, Jolene. And I had to have this talk with you, 'cause my happiness, it depends on you. And whatever you decide to do, Jolene. Jolene, 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 Jolene. I'm thinking of you, please don't take my place. Even
come on. Who knew that all Dolly needed was face melting guitar solos?
And so I have two things to say about this, which I also think are important. One is that when they actually mix up the lyrics in this one, like if you listen to it carefully, they Jack mixes up the first verse. But what I love about this is on this tour, this is a White Stripes reunion tour, and Jack was already with Raconteurs, like I know him, right? I'm using his first name, but with the Raconteurs, with the Dead Weather, and they would set up their stage so that Jack was always one step away from everywhere he needed to be. So if he was playing guitar, it had to go to the piano. If he was playing piano, it had to get to the mic. He set it up so that he was always stretching to get there. So the whole tour and the whole show was entirely breathless, which just captivated me. I didn't know that till after I'd seen the tour, but they set up the stage so that they were always a step behind. And I thought, what a way to design your life as an artist so that you need to be running into everything to get it done. Not for me, I'm a deadline driven person, but that's a bit too far.
But it comes across though, doesn't it? You know, it's just, and also it's just really raw and really honest. Like, I felt like that. I've had that emotion many times.
Yes. And to set up your stage so that you have to do that, I just think is speaks to creativity, speaks to artistry. I love it. And I love that song. And one of the things that Jack White says when they do the interviews during this documentary for the Canadian tour, and someone says to him, "Oh, what do you remember most about Canada?" And he said, "I remember the smell of the Whitehorse Airport, like when you get out of the airport in Whitehorse, Yukon." And my parents were in the Yukon for years. My sister was born there. I travel to the Yukon as often as I can, and I can confirm that is an incredibly invigorating, beautiful experience. And I'm just so glad that this whole tour and the whole documentary continues to be seen because it's such an expression of artistry and love.
Brilliant. And I've got to say, like, not that I have favourites, but probably the best closing track to Charity Island is so far. Absolutely banging. So moving on from that, like, you've already confessed that you're a massive bookworm. What book would you take on your desert island with you?
Okay, so I read a ton. It would have to be, I have a few criteria. I read a lot, especially read a lot of mystery and kind of detective type fiction. And I have a few criteria. So it would have to be a sort of an anti-hero or a reluctant hero, or at least a feminist, non-heteronormative, queer, positive hero. And that's actually a very deep well. And there's lots of books that I've discovered in that frame. I think my favorite right now is by a guy who's a Canadian author, actually. And his first book is called One for the Rock, and it takes place in Newfoundland. His name's Kevin Major. And I just read it, and I've shared it with a couple of people because I think it's fabulous. But I can't say that's the book I would bring because I always want to bring another book, but it would have to be something in that genre.
Cool.
What about you? What would be your one book that you could bring?
Oh no! One day I'm going to be a guest on Charity Island Disc, and I'll reveal it then. I'm swerving until then.
Changes every time. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. No, that's great, and really uplifting. That's a really deep well to mine. That's brilliant.
Yes, it is.
Great. So moving on from that, you've got your detective book. You're on your desert island. What would your luxury item be, Jen?
Okay, so I have two answers to this.
Yeah.
First is, and John knows this, my husband knows this, my family knows this.
Right.
I have a bit of an obsession with handbags.
Okay.
I believe that there are many uses for every good handbag, and I have a number of different handbags. So my pick would be a handbag, but specifically a Mary Poppins carpet bag handbag that you could then put a bunch of other shit into.
See, you're just messing with the system now.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
So in my Mary Poppins bag, I would have my binoculars. I would have some cannabis and some flasks because that's what we like to do in Canada. I would bring fancy pen and paper so I could write notes. So that's my cheeky answer, is I would bring a bottomless handbag. Mm-hmm. But if I really had to pick one item, I think it would be my binoculars.
Cool. Excellent choice. I don't, yeah. Not that I'm giving away any of the answers for if ever I'm a guest, but that's a solid answer.
I mean, there's a lot you can do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we're moving on from that, you've injected a bit of jeopardy into this live recording by saying that you hadn't actually chosen, if you could only pick one of these tracks, what it would be. It's a divisive question. It's ruined a few friendships of mine with previous participants. So what are you going for? And I am going to press you. You do have to choose one.
Okay, I do have to choose one. I think I would choose my favorite book.
Ooh.
I think I would choose the Stars song. I think between the beautiful vocals and emotional range from Amy in that song and the kind of nostalgia and the sort of importance of the like telling a story that's about a love story that's also a story in a story, I just think is ingenious. And if I had to listen to one song a lot, I feel like there's a lot of depth in that one. Not to say there's not depth in other ones, but I think my favorite book would have to be my one track.
Brilliant. And I think that choice says a lot about you and a lot that I like about you. So good stuff. Brilliant. Okay, so we're there. Did you enjoy it?
Oh my goodness, yes. This has been amazing. I love the process. I love this conversation. I can't wait to see the recording and be nervous about hearing my own voice and have imposter syndrome about the choices I made, but that's all part of the deal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, from my point of view, you've been an amazing guest. It's just lovely to spend time with you. You're so passionate about your music, but also about storytelling and being human, which just ticks all of my boxes. So thanks for coming on. And to the rest of the watching and listening public, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Keep being human and keep being awesome. Thanks very much. Cheers.
See you soon.
Thank you.